more dots. Throw more dots. More dots. More dots. Come on, more dots.
Stand and deliver. Sold. That's it. Flick some bread. Consume them, my pretty. Isn't she radiant?
So just going over the gear that I have, I'm using a standard triple bypass with enrage. You can also use one bypass accelerator on it. Our ordnance can be anything, since we're not using ordinances in this build. For our class mod, it can be Teen Witch. Ideally, you'd want one with the middle vampire to be a 5 rank. The middle vampire icon is called Grave Thirst. So this gives your minions and yourself more lifesteal, which allows your minions to stay alive a little bit longer. And you want to have the cast mod with crit chance. And for our shield, we're using a protein cell. You can also use What's for Dinner with amp. However, the protein cell applies to your dots and your minions, so you can do more dot damage this way. Lastly, your enhancement, you want one that is Jacob's 40% chance to ricochet non-crits and to increase the possible of ricochets by 1. You need one that has gun damage, and the rest can be up to you. I use the one that has splash damage. For our firmware, you want one that has Deadeye 3 out of 3. This gives your crits to be able to crit harder, and this includes your dots as well. And you want Airstrike 2 out of 3, so you have more splash damage. Splash damage counts for our dots if we're using a shotgun or a sniper with the complex fruit. For our weapons, you want to use Stellium shotguns. If you could find one with Jacobs and Energy Disc, that would be the best. And for a sniper, you want complex fruits. And you can also use the Hot Slugger. For specializations, the only important things you need is get 20 points into Survivor so you can get Best Defense. This gives you plus 30% damage to all sources, so including your dots. Over here, you just need 10 points in Sharpshooter and 10 points in Brute to unlock Killer. And with 1 point, you get Contamination. Critical hits have an increased status application chance, so this guarantees your dots will be applied to the boss or to any monster. Over here, we just put 10 points to Runner, and we unlock Daredevil. We have 1 point here. Now Caffeine, this is just to get our minions back quicker. And put 20 points in here and we can get a honed mine. This gives our minions another 5% chance to crit and to be able to crit harder as well. I'm not sure if the action skills actually apply to the minions, but there isn't any way I can confirm that. But if it doesn't, then you can move this point here. But I'm not sure if the minions do benefit from this point or not. If somebody knows, just let me know. How this build works is we summon our minions as soon as possible, giving us 30% crit chance on all sources. This stacks with our other crit chance passives and we have in our tree, allowing our dots to crit. And when they crit, they also have a chance to reproc itself to an even higher number. This is possible with the combination of Prismatic Ichor and Keen Suffering from the blue tree. And Keen Mind from the green tree. And Honed Mind from the Specialization. So with our high crit chance, we are able to activate our kill skills with the passive Mortar of Terror. And this allows us to activate several abilities in our passives. So we have Grave Sights on our green tree. This gives us more crit damage and it applies to any and all crits, including our dots. In our blue tree, we have Grave Assault. This increases our fire rate, both minions and me, and this allows us to proc more dots in a shorter amount of time. And I think the fire rate is much more beneficial over the status effect damage, but you can play around with either of these two. I just prefer the fire rate. And lastly, we have Grave Quickening. It's just so that we can get our minions back quicker. We also have the passive Blood Sacrifice, which allows us to obtain our kill skill passives as well. In addition, we also have the Grave Power passives, which increases our stacks to another +3, allowing our kill skill passives to have a max total stacks of 6, which is a massive boost to damage. So how this build works is we will be using the Protean Shield. I know the watts for dinner shield with Amp is also very good, but there is a hidden mechanic with the Protean Shield that isn't stated on here. Now, it states the Ground Slam to toggle this effect when enabled drains shield over time to grant 40% bonus shock damage and damage taken passes through the shield. What it doesn't tell you is that the bonus shock damage applies to every instance of damage we deal, including our minions and our dots. So every time we deal damage from any source, it's giving us another 40% shock damage. So even though it's draining our shields and our damage is going through our shields, we're able to sustain this with the Teen Wedge class mod. This gives us the survivability to just lifesteal our health and our shields and able to infinitely sustain this buff. Another huge source of damage is utilizing a Jacob's enhancement with Leaper and Bounce Pass, with gun damage and splash damage. When our minions and us deal damage, they benefit from this enhancement, it seems. And whenever there happens to be ads in a boss fight, the additional projectiles allow us to proc even more dots on the boss. And splash damage seems to include dots when using shotguns or snipers with additional projectiles like the complex fruit. And also don't mind the firmware. I haven't changed it, but I would change that to airstrike for more splash damage. So our main source of damage is our dots, which is coming from a stellium shotgun because these have the highest amount of elemental damage. So I have one that has 26,000 shock. Over here is another one that gives 9,800 corrosive. And I have a few other ones. I have 9,000 radiation and about 9,000 fire. If you can't find any of these weapons, you could also look for the complex root. The complex root is also a pretty good weapon that has high elemental damage and has multiple projectiles that can allow it to proc more consistently. So the complex root, you have a shock one, you have corrosive, and radiation. There's different versions. Ideally, you just want to use the highest elemental damage you can find. You can also use the hot slugger as well. The kill skills on kill procs, so you get an additional 90% damage. And this is possible with the Mortal Terror. So the hot slugger passive can proc from that.